Let's look at HP5 with various developers. Right here I've got Rodinal or Adonal, Atomal not 49, HC110, FX39, Tmax developer, Xtol, and D76. 7 different developers with HP5. Now, I didn't make these test images. They're coming from a very handy page. I'll put a link in the description, but it's photo import. Really valuable. Okay, and this is going to be just HP5. I might make some other videos looking at maybe FP4, Tri-X. You can also just go to that website and check it out for yourself. But here I've loaded the test images into Capture One so I can look at them all together. All right, let's go in. Let's come in here first. All right, let Capture One load everything. All right, so top left is Rodinal, right, or as Adox sells it, Adonal. It is the grainiest. It has, especially in the midtones and highlights, the most visible large grain. It's not that popular of a combination, right? A lot of people get turned off from HP5 when they develop it in Rodinal because it's just too much grain, especially in the higher tones. Okay, here is Atomal. I think I'm saying that right. It's a very fine grain developer, and you can see that it has the finest grain, but it also has the most solvency effect. So it's right, sort of like a dissolved look. The low frequency sharpness is poor, right? For example, the word white looks a little blurry. However, it does have a lot of high frequency sharpness. So if you look at the Kodak 2007 trademark Kodak, it is easiest to read in this one. So while this lacks low frequency sharpness, it has decent high frequency sharpness. And the finest grain, if that's what you want, which I don't for HP5. All right, next is HC110. HC110, when it was first released, was, well, I can't say first released. In early Kodak marketing was, right, it was like, hey, it's like D76, but faster, and in liquid form. And that's pretty true here, where this one and this bottom left, D76, are very similar. The key difference is that with HC110, you're losing more speed. With D76, you're losing maybe either no speed or a half stop. And with HC110, you're losing pretty much a full stop with HP5. But otherwise, it's a very attractive option. Right, it has nice grain that's a little soft, but not overly soft. The grain is not super sharp. It's a nice sharp kind of high frequency and low frequency sharpness. Okay. Let me let that load here. Right, so compare it to a super fine grain developer compared to this one, right? Here we have FX39, which is going to be very sharp. It has sharp grain. It has every type of sharpness. It maybe doesn't have. I don't know that it wins the most high frequency sharpness, and it's not doing much to dissolve the grains, right? It's I hate that phrase. The grain is apparent, and it is a sharp grain. Then you've got Tmax developer. Okay, notice that. Compare Tmax to something like Xtol, right? See how much Xtol is has much more low frequency sharpness. I like to come down to this spot. Let's see where to go here. Now this spot, Tmax developer looks all right, I think. I do think Xtol it's not just about the contrast. It comes out again with better low frequency sharpness. And then you've got D76 down here, which I'm noticing if you look at the highlights on Xtol, there's a little more prominent, larger grains in the highlights compared to D76. Let's come over here, 100%. Right, in this part of the image, right, Xtol looks, to me, right, to my eye, Xtol looks good. D76 looks good, maybe not as sharp. Tmax is fine. This is FX39, which is just very like a little bit too. The grain there is a little bit too sharp. HC110 looks a lot like D76. This one is, the grain is very fine, right? Very low frequency sharpness, like too much, right? And then Rodinal looks. I like it in the shadows, right, where grain can look good. But if we come over here to like this doll's face, which is, I don't know, maybe an approximation of a skin tone. Right, look at the Rodinal, right? That's when people often don't like 400 speed black and white film, is like when they see somebody's face and it's just like really grainy, or either big grain or really sharp grain, right? And in here, right, I think the best ones are D76 and Xtol. Yeah. Right, and then let's go check out George Washington and this comb. Right, FX39 has this like extra micro contrast. All right, and then there's one other thing that you got to, consider with all this. So here's the Xtol curve. This blue line represents a true 400 speed film. So Xtol is delivering on the 400 speed. Tmax is more of is like you're losing half a stop. HC110, you're losing a stop. D76, you're losing half a stop. FX39, pretty true to box speed. Rodinal is losing a full stop. Atomic or Atomal 49 is losing more than a stop, right? That's that super fine grain. And yeah, didn't get Cathanol. So that brings me to what am I going to use for HP5? And these are all sort of box speed treatments, right? I mostly push. But if I just kind of come in here for a second at 100%. Right, Rodinal's off the table. Too much grain. Atomal, I don't like that there's very little low frequency contrast or sharpness, and you lose a lot of speed. I like HC110 and HP5, but I don't want to give up a stop of speed. FX39 is the grain is too sharp, right? That's I like a little more solvency to my grain. Tmax is a little bit of a speed loss, and let's look here. Oh yeah, I mean, just I don't know why I would choose it over Xtol. Xtol has more low frequency sharpness. So then it comes down to Xtol and D76. And that's where I'm at, right? That's where I'm running tests and doing some. I will say that I do find that my mids and up tones have more grain in Xtol than I would guess. Right, it actually looks better over here in D76. And yes, I'm giving up a little bit of speed. Right, and here the win is for D76. D76, a slight nod. And then all this is just box speed treatment, which I don't really do with 400 speed films. So that's where I'm at right now, is right, comparing Xtol and D76 with HP5. And these are also diluted 1-to-1, and when I push, I'm going to go undiluted. And but either one is a really good starting point for HP5 or ID11 if you want to buy the Ilford brand. I'm making my own D76 because it's very easy to do. It's harder to make your own Xtol. But yeah, I actually think I give the image quality nod to D76 here. But in terms of just kind of getting the most speed out of HP5, Xtol's still in the game. And then of course, if you're like, well, if you're really wanting speed, go with DDX. I've already looked at examples, and I have some of my own in the past, and I don't love the grain when you push that HP5 that hard with DDX. So I have some. I might do a test roll or two, but really it's going to come down to some homebrew version of D76 or Xtol. Right, take care.